Hi, I'm Jimmy Bui. I'm Vietnamese American, and I'm a sophomore med, uh, management major in constitutional economics.
Hi, my name is Susana Tran. I'm Vietnamese American. I was born in Massachusetts in the United States, and I was raised in Boston.
My name is Kenny Zoe. I'm a second year at UMass Boston, computer science major. I have parents that were born in China and immigrated to the United States, but I was born here.
Hello, so my name is Miho. I identify myself as Vietnamese American.
My name's Sophia Moore. I'm a graduate student here at UMass Boston, majoring in exercise and health sciences. I'm in my first year, second semester of the graduate program, and I am half Asian American.
So I'm MG Zhang. I use they, them, theirs pronouns. I'm originally from Anchorage, Alaska, and now I live in Boston going to UMass. And I am a Hmong American.
I feel like when Asian Americans are in movies or just like mainstream media, they would be either put into the role of like mathematician or martial artist. I feel like those two realms are the biggest.
I think the lack of representation on the screen was honestly damaging to me because I would always see like white, blonde-haired, blue-eyed people or whatever on the screen more often than Asian, and I would think like, oh, like I want to be white. I want to have like white skin and like blonde hair and like the European descent. I want to be like that. Like it's not cool to be Asian. So I think the lack of Asian representation or role models on the screen is harmful to a lot of people and more of it.
So obviously the big two would be Jackie Chan and Bruce Lee because of the global influence and all that. And I feel like that conversation could be applied to like many other races because obviously everyone wants to see like at least some kind of representation of themselves. So that means like at least every group should like have some kind of fair representation.
The first thing I can think of is yellowface. So in 1961, there was a film called Breakfast at Tiffany, and there was an actor named Mickey Rooney, and so the way he really like portrayed like the character was really stereotypical, and so I think yellowface is also a representation. There's also like how is it like the movie like Shang-Chi, where a lot of Chinese people didn't really like the movie Shang-Chi because it was portrayed in a way where Chinese people are in a certain way or in a negative way. There's also like I feel like somebody already talked about it. BTS, BTS is like an idol group who's like very big, especially in the Western and also in the Eastern. So I feel like Asian American portrayal has gone better, but it's still a work in process.
Yeah, I think that they're especially in I feel like a lot of movies and also like reality TV. Not only is there vast widespread underrepresentation, but when there is, it often is like a way to sexualize, especially like Asian women, and so that's been a very like difficult thing to reconcile with and see that the only depictions of or not the only, but a majority of depictions of Asian American people or Asian people, and specifically Asian women, are hypersexualized. I think the first person I remember seeing was Randall Park, and so I like the way in which we can use humor to share our stories. It really showed the multidimensional nature of Asian people, and like all people in general, of course, are multidimensional, but it was a way in which like humor and comedy were used, and that's something that I really appreciated and resonated with.
My favorite Asian American actors would definitely have to be Randall Park, Daniel Day Kim, Simu Liu, Aquafina.
Michelle Yeoh, Anna Condor, Sandra Oh, Simu Liu, Olivia Rodrigo, Priyanka Chopra. I love her. I just really like what they do and represent for the Asian American community and for the types of stories that they involve themselves in and share.
Eugene Yang from Try Guys. So like Eugene was one of the Try Guy on BuzzFeed that I really inspired because at that time like he identified himself as queer Asian American. But the thing is like he has so much charisma in his video and the way he just make you feel like the way he like expressed fashion was very abstract, but it was so intriguing. Another person was Brian Higa, who is a YouTuber and he makes amazing content. And then there's also Joji, who is a YouTuber who made a lot of like dark meme, like comedian like script, and his music is really good. He's in BB Rising. And you know, there's a lot of Asian American YouTubers that I like really look up to, and you know, they just make it really nice. You know, Running Man is a Korean television show. It's been started in 2012 and it's still starting now. There's like 7 members. You should watch it because it's really good.
Chella Man, he is a trans mask Chinese and Jewish activist and artist based out of New York City, and he's very open and does a lot of education on you know, how trans and Asian identities intersect with one another, and really destigmatizing queerness within Asian cultures, and following his journey and what he has to share really gave me representation that I needed, and that for a long time I didn't even know that I needed until it finally hit me that how important hearing and seeing him was.
I feel like seeing like representation, like Asian representation in sports is pretty like influential to see, to think about how like I think Jeremy Lin also like got an outburst of like Asian pride when he was like really big in the NBA, and I feel like I would also root for Asians because of just the representation that they have in sports. I feel like it is getting better, but very gradually and slowly. I feel like it's starting to become more of just like actual athletic prowess as opposed to like what you look like.
Okay, so like Shohei Ohtani, so he's a baseball player, and knowing how well he does, and he's like doing so much better than like most in the MLB, and he's also from Japan. So I'm like, oh wow, that's cool. I'm like, wait, what happened to like all the other Asians in the sport? So it just got me thinking about like, I just remember when he first, you know, he signed on, people were giving him crap about, you know, him not being American, not speaking English and having a translator. So I feel like that could be really discouraging to someone who like really wants to play when they're younger. Just having to deal with, you know, the racism and stuff like that. I feel like that creates like a barrier and can be really discouraging. So they might not want to pursue that, you know, dream or career anymore.
I don't know anybody. See, that's the issue. There's not a lot of like, you know, Asian American in sport because there's stereotypes that Asian American can't do sport and the only thing they can do is math. I think that it's going to be very difficult for Asian American to really be in sport because I think for sport you have to like train yourself at a very young age. But like I feel like parents might like you know, kids who have Asian American parents might not feel like sport is the right thing to them because of things because sport might not be a financial stable income type of work or occupation or hobby. I feel like if Asian Americans don't have exposure to a lot of role models who they want to be part of a sport or a team, then they might not feel inspired to do a sport. So that's already difficult at a young age.
Honestly, I don't follow sports like at all in any capacity, but one thing that really does come to mind is Naomi Osaka, the tennis player. I feel like there's a lot of like institutional and structural work at play where oftentimes like there are no avenues or like structured avenues to have like sports stadiums or even how much like sports leagues cost as kids, like to be a part of like comp teams as a teenager or as a young kid, like those cost a lot of money, and oftentimes like we don't have the money to afford it. And I know like from like personal experience that my family had me focus more on my education than like sports extracurriculars. And so I think the structural injustices at play during childhood and will, at least for a while, continue to permeate into like a lack of representation for Hmong people and Asian people in sports.